Welcome back to Loose Talk. This week we're in New York City, just a day or two after Mitt Romney turned up to lick his wounds and indeed replenish his campaign war chest, having been humiliated, appearing in third place in the two Deep South states of Alabama and Mississippi. Of course, Romney remains very far ahead of his nearest rival, Rick Santorum, in terms of the all-important delegate count, and shows few signs of being vulnerable on that measure. But the fact that he's been outspending Santorum by 10 to 1 and is still losing consistently does raise the question, can money defeat grassroots if Santorum's grassroots keep delivering these kinds of results?
If we keep winning races, eventually people are going to figure out that Governor Romney isn't going to be the nominee. And when you keep getting outspent 7, 8, 9, 10 to 1 and you win races, it has to tell you there's something fundamentally right with what we're doing and the message we're delivering, and there's something fundamentally flawed about the candidate that we're running against.
This week, Governor Romney stopped off here in New York to replenish his war chest at a fundraising event at the Waldorf Astoria in Midtown Manhattan, and was greeted by the usual Occupy Wall Street protesters, seeking to remind people of his Mr. 1% status and of his past as a senior corporate raider at the private equity group Bain Capital.
We are trying to highlight Mitt's record on taxes and jobs, which is abysmal. And his tenure at Bain Capital is kind of all you need to look at to understand his plans for our economy, which would be devastating.
But no matter how much money he raises and no matter how big he maintains this cash advantage over his rivals, if he fails to win the all-important state of Illinois next Tuesday, where his poll lead is very, very thin over Rick Santorum, then the campaign could really begin to look shaky. Meanwhile, a victorious Rick Santorum, who just keeps coming back from the dead, he's been written off many times, is trying to consolidate the conservative vote behind him. In other words, trying to nudge Newt Gingrich out of the race.
We will compete everywhere. The time is now for conservatives to pull together. The time is now to make sure that we have the best chance to win this election. And the best chance to win this election is to nominate a conservative to go up against Barack Obama, who can take him on every issue.
Given that Santorum has only about half the number of delegates as Romney, and given that many of the remaining primaries allocate delegates proportionately as opposed to on a winner-takes-all basis, there's almost no scenario mathematically where Santorum can catch up with Romney. So his great hope is that Romney is such a damaged frontrunner that this has to go to a brokered convention in August. Then, of course, there's Newt Gingrich, who's finding it increasingly difficult on the campaign stump to disguise his disappointment, not just with the Republican electorate, but also with the media and with his rivals. Indeed, he said this week that he didn't believe either the media or his rivals could comprehend the large ideas, the big ideas that only he was bringing to the Republican race. The real question facing Newt, indeed the only question facing Newt, is whether Sheldon Adelson, the Las Vegas gambling billionaire and Newt's sugar daddy throughout this campaign, will continue to fund him. Rumors have it that Sheldon Adelson has written his last check, and if that's true, then Newt Gingrich's campaign could come to a halt pretty soon. And of course, Rick Santorum would then be in position to consolidate the conservative vote behind him, all of which would be very bad news for Mitt Romney.
Because one of the things tonight proved is that the elite media's effort to convince the nation that Mitt Romney is inevitable just collapsed. The fact is, in both states, the conservative candidates got nearly 70% of the vote. And if you're the front runner, if you're the front runner and you keep coming in third, you're not much of a front runner.
This week, in our odd moment of the week, we look at March Madness, which could, of course, be a description of the GOP race right now, and indeed might well turn into April Madness and May Madness, but in fact is the name given to the annual college basketball competition, on which Barack Obama dropped in earlier in the week with David Cameron, the UK Prime Minister, his British counterpart. So popular are the March Madness games that productivity goes down as people bunk off work early to watch them. And of course it was no coincidence that Barack Obama chose to watch a game in Ohio, which is bound to be a very important, if not the most important, swing state in November. And indeed had been the primary state just a week earlier that Mitt Romney had barely eked out a victory over Rick Santorum.
Prime Minister Cameron, talk to me. This is your first time being at
Very first time at a basketball game.
What do you make of the experience so far?
I'm enjoying it. It's fast. It's pretty fast and furious. It's hard to follow sometimes exactly who's done what wrong.
Was our president helping you follow the game?
He was giving me some tips. He's going to help me fill out my bracket. So.
And he's going to teach me cricket.
Yeah.
Demonstrating once again that he can walk and chew gum at the same time. Barack Obama not only hit all the right buttons in a key swing state, but also showed that he's the one hobnobbing with America's big allies on the world stage. We will see you next week on Loose Talk in Illinois.